Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie Newton from stephanienewtonhomeopathy.com. I see clients from all over the world from right here in my home in West Palm Beach. So today we are going behind the scenes taking a case. What is it that us homeopaths are doing when you're telling us about your case? No, we are not shopping on Amazon and scrolling Facebook. There is a whole world of things going on when I am taking a case, which means when I'm meeting somebody over Zoom chat, and what I'm doing in my head and on my computer is a lot. And it's actually probably not all listed here for sure. So sometimes somebody will feel like they're like a client will feel like they're talking and then they'll say, am I giving you what you need? And I'm like, yes, really everything you give me, everything you say to me has some value in what I'm doing behind the scenes and what I'm doing to choose your remedies. Which, by the way, if you want a little more information on how I actually narrowed down the protocol, go to this video. And if you don't know what homeopathy is, go to this video because it'll make a lot more sense here. Now, homeopathy is usually dispensed in little white pellets. You can find them at local health food stores, or they can be purchased on the internet at pharmacies. Okay, so behind the scenes taking a case. So when I'm talking to someone on Zoom, just like this, I am taking all of the features of their case or symptoms. And as they are telling me the symptoms, I am categorizing their symptoms or the features of their case. So they're just kind of randomly telling me. I might try to lead them through categories of symptoms, but oftentimes people jump around, and that is totally fine because I've been doing this for a while. And let me show you. Okay, wrong one. Okay, so let's say this is my notes. Basically what you see here is I have Jane Doe, initial consultation today, which by the way happens to be Prime Day, and I need to use my $10 on Prime Day, October 13th. And I haven't figured out what I'm ordering yet. But cognitive, so I will type into this section, and I've pre-typed these categories, any cognitive features, so that's memory, focus, etc., anything that they report on a cognitive level that needs improvement. And I will also be typing into the emotional section how they respond to stress, what it looks like when they respond to stress. If they cry, how hard are they crying? Are they weeping? Are they screaming? Are they throwing things? What things they're afraid of, what phobias they might have, what nightmares they might have. So anything that falls into an emotional category, I'm going to type here. And then we have physical. So sometimes this is they can't sleep, or they wake up every day at 3 a.m. or they are constipated, or they have a rash on their right hand that won't go away. So I'm typing that here. If it's actually really any new case, I will ask about the pregnancy usually, unless it's someone who is like 50 or older and just they just might not remember anything about their mom's pregnancy while their mom was pregnant with them. If it's sometimes I'm taking the case of like a teenager or whatever, and I'll ask what was the pregnancy like? What emotional themes were going on? Did anything traumatic happen? Did anything happen? What was the labor and delivery? What was it like right after the baby was born? So I'll dive into that. As I'm taking these symptoms down, and by the way, oftentimes I'm jumping around because sometimes they're telling me like something cognitive, then they jump to physical, then they'll jump to, I don't know, a trauma from their past, and I'll go to emotional. I'll write here some remedy ideas. So let's say they've been giving me several different categories of features, and I'm thinking, wow, this really sounds like a sulfur case, which is a polycrust remedy. I'll type in sulfur, or, this really sounds like it is a mineral case, meaning I feel like they need a mineral remedy. I'll type in mineral just to remind me later to go look at some mineral remedies. They might tell me that they were never well after getting in a fight with their mother a year ago. I'll type in here, you know, I don't know, trauma or relationship issues, something to remind me to check for a remedy that goes back to a year ago. So it may actually not be what's going on right now that's as important as what happened a year ago. So I might add that in here if I can think of a remedy that lines up with that. And then I'm also developing the protocol sometimes. Sometimes I'm able to pull all of this off while I'm talking to the person and I'm starting to develop the protocol. Sometimes this happens after the case. Sometimes I'll only have maybe one remedy and then I'll pick two more or one more after I talk to the person. Sometimes I've picked out a couple remedies and I don't know which potency yet or how often they should take it. So I'm starting to develop the protocol here. All right, so let me stop sharing. So I'm categorizing the features on the notes that I'm taking. And this is not happening in order. I'm also transitioning or translating your language. So as you're telling me, like, let's say you're saying, you know, I have anxiety. I have general anxiety. I freak out in this situation. I don't like social situations, whatever. I have to translate that language into the language that leads me to the right remedy. So let's look at a repertory, okay? A repertory is a computer program that it's a software program that I can input features. So I actually used this for my last video where I talked about how I come up with remedies. So I'm inputting features here and I'm looking at some remedies that come up. Now, I can't just type in generalized anxiety. 1,000 remedies will come up, 3,000, 5,000 remedies will come up. So I have to be asking questions. I have to be translating what you're saying to put in some specific language. Here's an example, melancholy in the same sentence as evening. So if you're like, oh, every night when I go to bed, I just lay there and I feel so just blah, you know, I have to translate that to the language that I know from my education is in the repertory or is in materia medica. Materia medica is like a book of remedies and all the features of those remedies. So I can just look up a remedy, look at all the features. So I'm sort of translating into the language of homeopathy. And that can be, for some things it's easy because it's things I've heard over and over and I just know exactly what to put in there. Other things I really have to think and I might have to input a few times in here until I get the right language. So that's going on. Okay, so I'm also thinking of clarifying questions. So to go back to anxiety as an example, if you tell me you have anxiety, like I said, it just tells me nothing as far as what remedy I'm looking for. So I have to think of ways to get you to really go deep in explaining what that looks like. Sometimes I'll say, okay, if I were a fly on the wall when you had this conversation with your husband that upset you, what would I see and hear? And what I'm looking for is the person's reaction. How strong is the reaction? How long does it last? What do they have to do to feel better? What are they feeling in their body in that moment? Are they having trouble breathing? Do they feel like their head is exploding? So I'm really digging deep into some of these features. And sometimes somebody's talking to me and I'm taking notes and I'm also having to be thinking of like my follow-up questions because I'm not always interrupting. I'm usually just letting them go. And then when there's a pause, then I'm, going back to number 3 or I'm working on translating. So another thing I'm doing is I will have people send me their health history before. Sometimes they don't send it before, often they do. But even if they do, a lot of times when somebody is telling me about their case, they'll mention something and I'll check to make sure it's in here. So let's say they say, I don't know, I had the chicken pox when I was 5. I'll check in here to make sure they have that listed under current and or past infections. And I'll, put chicken pox 5 years old, whatever, if they didn't list it. And oftentimes there's usually a couple things that somebody forgot to enter in the health history, which is why I like for it to come back to me in a Word document so I can add to it. And also, as I'm working with the case, they might, let's say somebody, I see them for like the fourth time and they say, oh, I wanted to let you know I had to take an antibiotic a few weeks ago. Well, I'll add that to their past medications. So this is like an ongoing health, um, moving health history that I need to be able to type into. So if you can send it to me as a Word document, that's extra amazing. Okay. I'm also looking at the repertory, which is the computer program. I'm adding symptoms and I'm reading remedies. So I already sort of talked about adding symptoms, but I'm going to show you how I can read remedies. So let's go back to the repertory. Okay, so let's say that I have a list of remedies here, and I don't just automatically go with the first one. In this case, it's Nux vomica. I'm going to look at like the top 5, top 10. I'm going to glance through and say, which one of these have I already been thinking about before I even put these symptoms in? Which ones make the most sense so far in my mind? And I might click on one, like let's say Ignatia. I'm going to click on it so that I can do a little research here. And a repertory will come up. And I can change the book, I can look at other books, but for now I'm looking at Murphy's Nature Materia Medica. So this is a book that's included in my software program. And oftentimes I'll start with the mind section. So it says here, suppressed or deep grief, sobs, so sometimes the person's sobbing, anguish, shrieks for help, melancholy, sad, tearful. So this goes on and on. There's a ton of information about Ignatia. And I'll kind of read through and I'll say, does this fit the case? Does this resonate with the case? So I'm sort of doing that sometimes. Sometimes I just don't even get to this part until after because there's just so much information coming at me. But oftentimes I will get to this at least toward the end of the time that I'm with the client. And last, I'm checking books. This is really not last because there's usually just so much going on in my mind. I'm checking books. So let's say I did repertorize the case. I put all the symptoms in there. I feel like I have an idea of a couple of remedies I've narrowed it down to, but I want to sort of cross-reference with, let's say, the sensation method. And this is one other way to get to a remedy, which is different from repertorizing in the computer. So let's say I'm looking at Thuya as a remedy and it looks good in the repertory. It sort of matches the case. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense for this case, but I want to sort of double check a book. Okay, this is a way to look at it through the sensations that the person is telling me. And I'll look at, so I said Thuya, that's in the conifer/pine plant family. And I'm going to look at some of the keywords. So for example, for the keywords for this plant family are fragile, broken, connected, disconnected, cut off, fragmented, empty. So becoming strong. So if I hear a lot of these words or these themes in a case and it sort of makes sense with this plant family, then that's just another clue to let me know that Thuya just might be the right remedy. So I like to sort of cross-reference, make sure that I have like backup reasons to give this remedy. So there's a lot going on. It may look sometimes like I'm just kind of staring at you or I'm typing and I could be checking my email for all you know or something. But I am literally hopping around all over the place on my computer, in my head, looking at books, and all the whole time I'm listening to you. Sometimes it may not seem like it, but most people I think are very aware that I'm listening because the whole time I'm asking follow-up questions. I want you to further explain that. What happened right before that happened? I'm asking clarifying questions all the time. And I'm going back to my notes. Even if I was like looking at a book and somebody said something important, I have to go back to my notes. I'm hopping around constantly. So it's a lot. And a lot of times when I get off with a client, I often have to like go in the other room, sort of decompress, let this all sort of integrate and maybe have a cup of tea, talk to my kids for a few minutes, and then I can come back and finalize the protocol. So even if in some cases I can finalize the protocol during the consultation, which is normally an hour, hour and a half, I will still go back and make sure. I might do some cross-referencing. I might, I don't know, just decide I want to sit on it to decide if I want to add additional remedies in there later. I might come back 20 minutes later, I might come back the next day. So what I always tell people is I will email you the protocol within 4 days. It's normally within 24 hours. So, and I like to shoot it right off, but sometimes I just feel like I need to sit and wait and do a little bit more of this after the analyzing of the case. So if you got something out of this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're interested in more videos about behind the scenes of homeopathy and just remedies in general and what homeopathy can do for you, subscribe and listen for future videos. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.